Chief McNamara.
Okay, the Finance Committee will come to order on Thursday, February 25th at 7:15 p.m. We'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dave, present the colors.
Here we go. Ready?
Here's Ben.
I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag
United
of the
States
United
of America
States of America,
and to the republic
republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice
and justice for all.
All right. All right, we'll take the roll. Ed is here. Bob.
Here.
Chet.
Here.
Dave.
Here.
Diane. Scott.
Here.
Yes.
Here.
Ben.
He's here.
Hello, Ben.
Geez, he had come in. Where'd he go?
We'll come back to him. Johnny Anzavino.
Here.
Joel.
Here.
The John Rock.
Here.
Marty.
Here.
Elliot.
Here,
Vaughn.
Here.
Enoch.
Here.
Come back to Ben.
He got kicked out, but he's coming back. He just said that he has to
Okay.
sign back
We'll
on.
put it down as a- All right, so we got, we have 15 minus 2, 13 right now. Okay. All right, we're open. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So made.
Ed
Second.
votes yes. Bob.
Yes.
Chet.
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
Diane. Is that a yes? I don't know. Scott.
Yes.
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 Ben. John Anzavino.
Yes.
Joel.
Yes.
The John Rock.
Yes.
Marty.
Yes.
Elliot.
yes,
Vaughn.
Yes.
Enoch.
Yes.
Okay, we are open. Okay, who's here? Is the Chief McNamara here tonight?
Yes, I am.
Is the town manager here tonight?
I am here.
Okay. I guess we are
Hey,
ready to start.
Ed, we got a radio going in the background.
It's John Rock. Yeah, there you go. Your
I just
news
muted
is
him.
coming through. Thanks.
Right, we got that covered? Okay, good.
Oh.
All right, let's get going.
So while you're all pulling up your budget, I just want to thank Chief McNamara for leading the police department through a challenging year with pandemics and protests and a whole host of things that law enforcement has had to face under tremendous scrutiny from the public, and accepted that, understood that accountability and scrutiny are part of what police officers do and should face. And she has led tremendously through that. Through our pandemic, we had very little sick time. We had officers coming to work, complying, and that's a testimony to the type of people we have in our department, and that comes from the top down. We also, during very, very contentious times this summer, had vigils, protests. Surrounding communities around us had violence erupt right next door, in fact, in communities literally bordering us. And we were successfully able to allow people to exercise their First Amendment, do the best we could to ensure that they were complying at the same time with pandemic restrictions and guidelines, and ensure both public and police safety. And that really is a testimony to the quality of people we have in the department under the leadership of Chief McNamara. 2 of our 3 labor contracts, particularly patrol, which is a very expensive contract, if you will, because of the number of people involved, have been settled. And again, I just want to thank the chief. This was probably one of the more difficult years to be a police chief. And if you look around the nation, many walked away. It was that bad. And so I'm really proud to be part of a town with a department like we have, community-based, very interactive, very sensitive to the needs of the community and the diversity within the community. And I would like to thank Chief McNamara for her continued leadership during this very difficult time. With that,
Here now.
talk about money.
All right, let's do some of the easy ones first. Start with the crossing guards, page 21.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask real quick? I want to make sure everybody got the email I sent out earlier today
Yeah, go ahead.
One.
about the
You got a couple.
salary. Yeah, I know, I sent out a couple of them. About the salary list there, just make sure everybody got that thing.
The PDF.
Yes, I got it.
Request.
And I think you should have had two for me, the salary list for the general salaries, and I sent a follow-up list that had the department's percentages broke down, which I think is even more critical to what you're looking for.
The PDF, I think, is what we were after. The spreadsheet really wasn't cutting it.
As long as you got what you needed, I sent both. I figured I'd rather send more.
Now,
Okay.
is there a way that we could get that same list with individualized lines and then with the total amount of the 21 budget and the 22 budget with then maybe a breakdown after that individual?
Oh, you mean with names, like the name?
And not to be names, it could be just employee number 1, 2, 3 if you want, whatever. That way you could see the total amount instead of adding up, because I looked at that list and you would still have to add up from different areas on that, wouldn't you?
I guess so. I mean, I can have Deanna try to flesh it out even more. Let me look through it again and see
Right.
if we can make it even more open.
All right,
Well,
thank you. I think Mr. Anzavino has a question too. Thank you.
I mean, this is the PDF.
Right.
And that it listed the location, the title, and it gave the annual from
Right.
21 and the estimated for 22. And then it gave the breakdown for 21 and 22,
Right.
the percentage. But it doesn't give you, you'd have to figure out what the percentage is to be able to plug it into all those budgets. I think that's what Vaughn was alluding
So
to.
that's the second sheet that I sent you. That spreadsheet.
Yeah, I didn't
Yes.
even do the spreadsheet. That had so many things on and it really didn't cover what was asked for. This really gave you the breakdown. It's just,
Okay. I have another spreadsheet then that I'm not sure that you got, and it may be under a DPW title, but it takes any position in town that's a split position, it pulls them out and lists them and breaks down their percentage allocation townwide.
Yeah, that's the one we got a couple years ago.
Yeah, I've got an updated version of that.
well, I mean, that was the PDF we got.
Okay,
The
But then-
spreadsheet was the one that Deanna pulled together.
right, that had everybody, yeah.
But this one, I don't know if that was what Vaughn was alluding to, is it gave you the total estimated, and it gave you the percentages each year.
Yeah,
on where it went. You just have to figure what the percentage was and how that plugged into whatever budget.
oh, yeah,
I don't know if that's what he was looking for, if the breakdown by amount.
Sure, John Rock has a question too, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Vaughn, are you just sending things to the, our town emails now?
I will send it wherever you want me to send it. I know that Trish had set up a group, but if you let me know where you want it sent, I'll send it wherever you want, including the moon.
Could I? Yeah, I'm having the same issue as well too. It's not coming to my email. I don't know. Something's wrong with my email for some reason.
Which one? The
Yeah,
Stoughton one?
My personal one.
Oh, that's a different one, okay.
Yeah,
John,
I mean, I've never used the Stoughton one in my 9 years.
Okay.
Why start now?
Yeah, so I guess just send it to my personal one, Vaughn, because
Okay.
I was getting everything. Yeah, if you don't mind.
I'll send it right over. You'll have it in a minute.
All right, great. Thank you.
Can I
very
do the
much.
same as well? Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, we got the logistics out of the way. We all set?
Hey, Vaughn, were you gonna record this?
Smack's already recording it.
There we are. We are now.
Okay.
All right. All right, we all set with that? Let's move on to crossing guards, page 21. Who's going to take the budget? Chief?
I certainly can. I think
Thank you.
you'll see that nothing's changed in the budget, same amount of as the previous fiscal year. They have not gotten raises in a number of years. It's still 1810 technically 18 employees that are broken down. It's approximately 180 days, school days a year, and they're paid 3 snow days. We do a little bit of training in the beginning of the year before they start each year to make sure we go over safety protocols, and they make $20.33 per hour. And
How much was that, Donna?
$20.33 per hour.
Thank you.
But they may not work in like 45 minutes in the morning and then an hour and 15 in the afternoon, depending on what their schedule is. It's kind of broken up.
All right, so basically we're level funded, same number of people. How are we doing this year, 21, as far as school closed, open, whatever? Are we using these people? We not using them, some of them?
We're currently using 17 crossing guards, and yes, we're using them. They are, even though there's a small amount of kids going to school because of the splits, Monday, Tuesday, and then remote on Wednesday. So we're not sending the crossing guards out working on some of the days, but there are some kids going to school every day.
Okay, so they have to, obviously gotta be there, so.
They have
All
to
right.
do that.
All right, Mike, got any questions?
Yeah, Chief McNamara, when's the last time these people got a raise?
It would be before I was chief, so more than 5 years ago. But I would have to look up. It's definitely more than 5 years ago.
All right, I thought so, after sitting with you the last few years, and I just don't know why we aren't giving these people something.
I agree.
I think it's something that the committee really has to think about.
And I don't want to be starting wars that we don't need to start, but this is a service that we provide fully for the schools and obviously for the children of the town. So this is one of those costs that doesn't fall under a joint cost. It falls fully under the town, and that's fine because it's under the leadership of the police department. But I just do want to remind people that this is one of the many things that we do for the schools. We're happy to do for the schools. But when we're looking at keeping our budget tight, maybe if we want to increase, maybe we look at having the schools contribute somewhere if they can a little bit to this too. We've sort of included them as part-time employees, and I guess there are different times when part-time employees have gotten raises, and apparently this group has not, and I don't know why. That would predate me that there was a difference. So I probably gave, I think, a 1.5 2 years ago to part-time, and for whatever reason they weren't included. I think probably because it's just a large number.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Ben Thomas has a question.
Okay, Ben, go ahead.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Robin. Appreciate all of your work, especially during this difficult year, Chief. Appreciate your leadership. I just wanted to make a point that the crossing guards, although the kids are headed to school, those students are walking and operating on public roads, and I assume crossing public roads. So it's not as though this is somehow a benefit to the school department. It is a benefit to the safety of our children, Stoughton children who are moving about our town. So I just want to sort of clarify that it's sort of difficult to argue that that is a school function to make sure kids are safe crossing public roads, Stoughton roads.
Well, as I said, there are children as a town, but it is a cost that is definitely associated with education. And I agree. I agree, Ben. They're crossing public roads, and we have an obligation to protect them on those roads, no doubt. But it is just, no different than when we put school resource officers in schools. It's because we care about all the children and their safety. But those are costs that are part of educating children, and we're happy to do it. But I just like to remind people there are a lot of things that happen that are large ticket items financially that we don't want to not do. But I just need to point out to people that we do it because I think sometimes that does get lost a little bit when we look at the budget.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Jess has a question, as does John Rock.
All right, Jess, go ahead.
Yeah, I've definitely been one of the people, families who have taken advantage of the crossing guard because we walk our kids and have to 2 different schools in the town, although not this year because we've been doing the fully remote option. But I would just want to say that it's such an essential service. And if we're not going to give them a raise, could we at least offer them hazard pay? Because they've at least saved my life and my children's lives at least 5 times a year so far. And I just think maybe it would be a good opportunity to think about, if they haven't had a raise since prior to the time that the chief has started, there's a lot of other raises going around. So I would like to put in a plug for how amazing our crossing guards are. Our children love them. They're so friendly and nice. It makes it a pleasant part of people's day. It's an important service that we provide. And I care a little bit less about whether or not the funding comes from the town or the schools and so on. But I think we should treat them fairly for the work that they do. And it is a limited number of hours. So, it's not a huge amount of pay that they're receiving overall. So I just would want to say that they do a great job. They're very reliable, very friendly, and very important to the kind of community and the spirit of our town. So I just want to support them. Thank you.
And I honestly can't.
Ed, could I finish the question?
Oh, sorry.
No, hold on.
Well,
John's up.
I started on the questions and then you went off to other people. You didn't let me finish.
All right, finish up.
Donna, can you tell me on average how many hours these crossing guards work every week?
But it just depends on if they're taking, sometimes people fill in. Each day it's about 31 hours a day, and we have 17
Okay.
pretty much that work. So,
Right. So it's about 31 hours. It's about 31 hours a day that they have to cover.
yes.
Okay.
And so, they're working probably 2 hours a day.
Yeah. And I mean, I know at one point you lost someone and you were, they'd cover, different shifts or whatever, but it's approximately 31 hours a day that have to be covered.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chief McNamara, and I do offer the same gratitude that with what you and the force have done over this crazy year that we're in. Because I believe you have good support from the town too, but just wanted to echo what people have said. You've done a great job with you and the force over the past year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, John Rock, you're up.
Yes, hi, everybody. Donna, Chief McNamara, I think you've done a fine job. A lot of the police departments across the country have been in the news. Your department really hasn't, and you're doing a great job. And Robin, you're doing a good job too. That being said, I definitely agree with Jess and Ben. I think you gotta squeeze 10 grand out of your budget. It's not a school, blah, blah, blah. It's only 10 grand. It doesn't even necessarily have to come from Chief McNamara's budget, but you gotta show these people a little respect. I mean, come on, 5 years, everybody else is getting raises. They're not. You could do a little each year, but come on, you can squeeze 5-10 grand somewhere. So
I have to tell you, I'm actually unsure how they didn't get one. I think we gave a 1.5, not this year, but last year to all part-time, and I don't know how they didn't get that.
yeah, they haven't had a raise, so
Yeah, no, and they probably should have last year when we gave the 1.5 to everybody, because I think we did give part-time. I didn't the year before, I did last year, and we didn't this year. But I don't know how they didn't, and I'll have to look back at our minutes from FinCom last year that it didn't come above the radar last year.
well, I think we bring it up, but it doesn't happen. And I don't know if they even got raises before you came on board, but I just think it's a thing you got to do. You got to locate $1,000 here and there and give them a bump up.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
it's reasonable. I mean, that's a long time when others have.
Yeah. I mean, it went down 4.7% last year. In all the years I've been on that public safety subcommittee, I don't remember them getting raises.
Correct.
I think that's been 6 years now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Scott.
through you to Chief McNamara. Chief, thank you for what you do. I know you're probably getting sick of hearing it, but if you do some quick math, $5,500 will give them 300 11,000 gives them 600. There's the breakdown. Somebody can make a choice if we take half from someplace else, or all from one place, but that's basically what it breaks down to. If you do the math, 11,000 gives them 600, not a week, but a year, and then 5,500 gives them 300. So it's simple as that. Somebody can pick it or do what with it. They do deserve a raise, and like Donna says, they're out there, they're working, they're in the COVID, they're out there.
Yep.
It is what it is. We're giving 5,000 out here and there for, doing stuff. This is 18 people, not one person. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add a couple things to this here.
Sure.
Thank you, Chief McNamara, for the job you're doing. Oh, I have to let somebody, I think John Rock fell out of the room somehow. Thank you, Chief McNamara. I'd like to also bring up the fact that if these crossing guards haven't gotten a raise, that perhaps if we can find that money somewhere, that'd be a good idea. But I'd also like to bring up the funding of the crossing guards in the past was actually from the school budget. And then it was moved into the police budget a few years back. It is a committee before I was on the committee, but it was moved from the school budget over to the police budget. Just for clarification, it's been said several times that it's a school function versus this function and all that. But you said earlier also that these are students and children crossing public roads. So I mean, I think that it's not a problem that that the town funds the fact that they would get to school safely. But like I say, it was previously in the school budget. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anybody else? All right, anybody from the public want to comment on the crossing guards? All right. Robin, can you check with HR on the time cards for these people and see if they can go back 4 or 5 years and see if they got any raises or didn't, or any way we can check that out?
Yeah, Deanna will know.
Okay. All right, let's do animal control, page 26.
So animal control, previous animal control officer that we had has since gone on to bigger and better things. He's decided to become a police officer in another municipal community. But we have since hired a new animal control officer. She started in mid-November. She's doing a great job. And so if you want me to go line by line, I can, but there are some obviously expenses other than the salary for the building and the shelter that we still have. Just tell me how you'd like me to go through it.
And for clarification, the animal control officer is now in Speyer. That position is now a labor position. It became one last year.
Okay. No, just in general, Chief, just, anything, I know they moved some electricity out to facilities and
Yeah.
all the other stuff looks pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. The salary went down a little bit. Obviously, we had somebody that had been there for a number of years. So, and we started someone off new.
Have there been any, I don't know, extra animal stuff going on in town, or with, I don't know, things happening, more turkeys around, more things happening, coyotes eating, all that? Anything going on in that area, in that respect?
We do have a considerable wildlife in it, whether you realize it or not, in some areas of our town. There are barn inspections that get done. That is the responsibility of the animal control officer. There are other kennel inspections that have to be done. Other than just answering the nuisance dog calls or bites investigations that the animal control officer does.
Okay. All right.
I can tell you that the patrol officers missed when we didn't have an animal control officer. So they were happy when we got an animal control officer hired. So.
Good. Didn't have to deal with those issues. All right, anybody got any questions on animal control?
It just, the stipend that's in there, and I know overtime, I'm sure, is covering, when they're out or they gotta bring somebody else in. But, what is the stipend for?
So if you recall, that the stipend was, the parking, and we did that a
Oh,
number of
yeah,
years
I
back.
got it, that's right, thank you. I think I'd remember after all these years.
You are getting old.
Yeah, I know, older every day, but I take that better than the alternative.
Oh, yeah.
I like to say I'm on the right side of the grass.
Ed, I just had one quick question, if that's all right.
Sure, good.
Good evening, Chief McNamara. Is that a full-time position?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a small joke I'd like to just share real quick. As
Okay.
as
Sure.
the dog poop expert in the town, I just want to know, have we collected any fines for people not picking up their poop?
I do not believe the new animal control officer has issued any fines for that yet.
Okay, all right, glad to see everyone's in compliance
Thanks
with
for
that.
that reminder, David.
All right, thank
That
you for that.
That was about an hour
Maybe-
wasted time at town meeting.
Yep, I remember that one very well, but maybe everybody is so afraid of getting the fine that the deterrence factor has worked.
It's working flawlessly, thank you.
Exactly.
Dave, do you want a spreadsheet on that?
Yes, I would.
Here's a public service announcement.
I want a column for every dog owner in town.
And
All right.
public service.
Right.
People 60.
Anybody else on this one? We good? All right, anybody from the public want to comment on the animal control budget? All right, hearing none. We are done with that one. Let's go on to central dispatch, page 22.
Okay, so the central dispatch is, run out of the police department for both police and fire dispatch. We have 9 full-time dispatchers, 1 dispatch supervisor, which is under the program administrator 2 position or title. We are in the process of replacing that position right now. We have a couple per diems that we have on staff, and it's deceiving in this budget because we still do get a state 911 grant each year, but we have to still put the funding in for training and overtime, and we also apply for the grant, and then we usually get notice afterwards if we get the grant. So it's we do build it into the budget in case we don't get the full grant.
How much is the grant about, roughly? Any idea?
It's a combination between so we can get some equipment paid for and training and overtime. So it's about $150,000 combined for all 3 of those.
Wow. Okay.
If you'd like me to go through line by line, I can.
It looks like personnel is still kind of the same. We do the 9 and the 1. That hasn't changed, right? That's the big dollars.
Yes, we do 911. Yeah.
We okay on software and equipment? All that stuff working pretty good we put in there a few years ago?
Yes, so far we haven't needed any updates on that yet. It's only about 4 years old. So we're good on that, and some of the equipment, like as I said, we do pay for it out of the grant that we get. Upgrades, some of the memberships, we end up saving some of that money in each line item, but we just don't know what we're gonna get until we get the answer on the grant.
Okay. All right, anybody got any questions on dispatch?
Yeah, I had a question, Ed.
Go ahead.
Donna, can you explain the increase in the differential line?
That would be contractual.
Contractual?
That was part of the negotiations when they came off the grid. part of what we dealt with was we put them on obviously less than the step grid that we were on. We rolled in their longevity and removed that. And part of the agreement in trade was to increase the differential a bit. And I believe what we increased it to mirrored a little more closely with some surrounding communities are doing. We've had a big problem with losing dispatchers. We cannot retain them. There's a whole host of reasons, and a lot had to do with the labor contract, and we're working on some of those things that are part of seniority questions and whatnot, and then hopefully in the next contract we can continue to address it. But in the short term, one of the efforts to keep people, because so many had to pick up overtime shifts, and a lot of the junior people have to pick up the overtime shifts, that offering it the differential in an effort to help those people who have to pick up those shifts, particularly on an overtime basis, is a way to try to keep. Actually, the differential follows the position. So whoever's working it gets it. If somebody takes a night off, they don't get the differential. It doesn't go with the person, it goes with the actual person who's sitting there. And believe it or not, that was a long topic of discussion, because some people felt that you get the differential just because of the fact that's the shift you're assigned. But we really kind of felt that the person who was working the shift should get the differential for working it. So that was all part of a contract negotiation. And if you recall, the actual first year of this contract, I think actually went down. We actually saved money in the first year of this contract. So, and that included the differential increase calculated in.
Okay, and I'm assuming the clothing uniform increase is contractual as well?
Yeah, we did that with most of the unions, because what happened is the IRS, we started to become more aware that the IRS was taxing that, or was going to tax that benefit. And so again, part of the negotiation so that people broke even was we increased the amount. You know, people wanted us to sort of not tax it or say that it was all standard uniform. We were not going to play around with the IRS. So part of what they asked was to be made whole on that number and to offset what the tax cost would be. And so we uniformly, with most of the no pun intended, with most of the unions, pretty much on a parity basis adjusted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Well, I do want to make note that the overtime cost has been reduced a good cut, you know, more than what the increase was on the differential. So they did reduce the overtime.
And that's because we had the grant money that we were able to fund. And additionally, I would say there wasn't a lot of time taken in the last year because of COVID. So as the police officers, the dispatchers were also coming in and working their shifts, just stepping up and doing the right thing and coming to work.
And part of the goal to have a contract that helps retain these people is exactly that point. Overtime gets so costly, and every time you have to bring somebody in, retrain them, ramp them up, and even from a public safety standpoint, we want continuity and experienced people. So that overtime cost is directly related as well to a lack of retention. And if we can keep people, hire people, and right now we're well staffed.
And the other part of dispatch is that it's someone that uses that as a stepping stone to get into either the firefighter service or the police service, and it's a good foot in the door to get experience before they get the opportunity. So they may be going to paramedic school and then want to get on a fire department, or they become a dispatcher because they want to get on as a police officer. So it's good experience, and that's another reason for the high turnover rate.
Makes sense. Okay, anybody else?
Just one question for the chief, Ed.
Okay.
Yeah. Or Dr. Grimm, whichever. I know in the past, talking with your chief, going over the budget, you know, there were some serious issues based on the contract on this particular central dispatch. Have some of those issues been addressed in the contract and alleviated from the past?
Some. So I would defer to the town manager on the starting salary.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things that was
Right.
addressed in the last contract.
But some things have been addressed, right?
Yes, absolutely. We couldn't get them all. And some of them are things that actually were benefiting members, and we still couldn't, you know, you can't always convince a union what would probably benefit the whole body. You know, you're dealing with negotiating teams, but overall, I think it was a fair contract and it was fair enough to help us with recruitment and retention.
Sure. Well, I know, you know, from past years, you know, especially on the subcommittee and talking with the chief, you know, there were just certain limitations with the contract that really didn't help bring people in. It didn't help keep people. So
Yep.
as long as, well, it's baby steps. You got to take them one at a time. And as long as it's being worked on and being improved, that, you know, that's good to hear.
Okay, does anybody from the public have a comment on the, dispatch budget?
You got a member with their hand up, Ed.
Oh, I don't have that board. All right, who was it?
Scott.
Scott, go ahead.
You're on mute, Scott.
Sorry. I want to ask a question through you to the chief. Donna, on the training, do they train every year? Is there like a criteria they have to meet every year, or is it?
Yes, so they have to do 16 hours of in-service training and then towards state 911. So they can be online training, it can be CPR because they're required to be CPR certified. We'll send them to a CPR class. They're all certified 8 hours, so then their recertification is 4 hours. And then we send them to some different classes. Some of it, most of it over the last year has been online. And they can do 1 hour blocks, or we try to send them to just different subjects out there that impact the dispatchers.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else in the committee, we all set? Okay, anybody from the public want to comment on central dispatch?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Walsh?
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 South Street, Precinct 2. For some reason, I couldn't get in when you were talking about animal control, and I wanted to say that I met the new animal control officer her very first week. What a coincidence. And it was a pleasure to deal with her, and also to deal with an animal control officer who knew the difference between a goat and a sheep, because I have both, and some of her predecessors didn't know the difference. So thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, guess we're done with central dispatch. We'll move on to the police department. Page 19.
As you know, you all voted that contract at the special town meeting, that patrol contract. And this budget reflects those changes. This contract does reflect and implement the changes to the budget. This budget, I should say, reflects the changes from the contract.
Correct. Okay, chief, give us the overview.
Okay, I think some of the things that you see in the equipment part of it, we've changed and taken some vehicle stuff out, and that's been transferred out of the police budget. So you'll see same thing as in other budgets, the electricity, gas, water, vehicle maintenance and operation services have been removed from my budget. Gas, oil. So there's a number on the page 20 that have been removed out. So then we'll get into the salaries. I'll go back up to the salary stuff. We made some concessions in order to keep positions to adjust when we would hire this fiscal year and then going into the next fiscal year with some of the vacancies. In order to not lose positions, we're just adjusting to hire people at different times, not necessarily all at once, in order to maintain the budget. If you'd like me to go line by line, I can do that. If it's easier just to take questions.
I think we can kind of see it line by line. Nothing's really majorly changed. We have the same number of officers, same command structure.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty much the same, right?
Yes, we have not increased any additional positions in this budget. It's just we're gonna maintain, but when we have some vacancies that we've lost through attrition, through retirement, we're just working with the town manager on the hiring timeline.
Where are we on staffing with patrol officers? We're always like behind. Do we have 54? Do we have 48? What's our?
No, we have, I believe we're in the process of, we just had a conditional offer turn into an offer of employment, so we're at 49 right now. And we're continuously hiring, but it has its challenges with everything that's going on right now to recruit and get people interested in the position.
Okay. All right, we'll open up for questions. Who's got questions?
I got them.
First. Okay, John.
So is that the only position that's short of the number, the patrolman? All the other ones are full?
Yes.
Right.
Chief, deputy chief, 3 lieutenants, 9 sergeants.
Okay. So
yeah.
it's, you're only short on patrolman, well, only, but you're short on patrolman.
Yes.
Have you got any people out? You know, anybody on disability or anything that would make you even shorter-handed?
We do have some people occasionally out on some injuries.
But nothing long-term at this, right now, anyway.
We have one that's been out long-term, probably 18 months. He's been out sick, yeah.
All right.
And that's probably going to work towards, we're dealing with the retirement system right now in
Sure.
PERAC, and something that would probably, may possibly turn into an on-the-job retirement, forced retirement.
Yeah, okay. And then, it's a minor thing, but you have a line for department community events. And I assume this is different than the community events that we heard last night?
So that, yes, that is. That is for some of the activities like the Haunted Halloween that we do, some of the events that we do in the community.
So the
When we
police,
do
the police details under community events, the 15,000 under there?
That's for the parades, when and if we ever get back to fireworks. Those are paid for out of recreation.
Okay, but this is something different then, okay.
Correct.
They have shop with a cop, things like that go on the.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. I just,
yeah.
You know, the way it's written, it sounds like it's similar, and I just wanted to.
We almost should change the name of that line item so there's not confusion. Community activities maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It might clarify it if we call it police community activities or police community engagement. Maybe something we can play with the name on.
We can change it to community engagement.
Yeah.
No, like I said, we just did the community events last night, especially in it, so it's kind of fresh in the mind. Because it only stays fresh for so long, you know.
Yeah, but it's a good question because it can be confusing, and it does almost appear that that's to help pay for those other community events. And in fairness to the department, it probably should be carved out a little bit with a different name.
All right. All right. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Dr. Grimm.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else got a question?
I had a question.
Who's that? Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, Donna, can you explain the town detail for 25,500?
So that'll be details for the DPW, or if we have other town details that come in.
Yeah. And there is a line item in parks for details too. I know that came up yesterday. So this includes also like parades and whatnot. Those are different details. Well, some of that comes out of community events, but.
Okay. And Donna, that rate has increased recently. I think we heard that last night at our meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
For patrol officers, yes.
Okay. And as far as the fee that we can charge, as far as administratively, we can't increase that. Is that correct?
It's been 10%. I could check around other communities and see. I believe that's the going rate of what everybody else charges in other communities. 10% billing fee.
Okay. appreciate that. Okay, and what was my other one? As far as the education incentive, how many, maybe you don't know this, but how many people does that represent as far as that dollar figure is concerned?
I don't have that off the top of my head. That does include, however, people who are under the old Quinn bill, which was a large percentage and a significant payment, and also some people who are under the educational benefit that's a straight flat dollar amount. Part of contract negotiations was they wanted to close that gap a little bit. We did close the gap a little bit, believing, frankly, that educating police officers, the further the education that they have, the better in some ways. And so there is an increase in that. We can get you the number of how many are on Quinn and how many are on the educational incentive non-Quinn.
Okay.
Chief, I don't know if you have it off. Do you have it off the your notes?
I mean, I can look at my spreadsheet that I have. So out of the superior officers, two out of the three lieutenants have Quinn bill, and four sergeants have the Quinn bill, and actually that would be five, and one has an education incentive out of the 9.
Okay.
And out of patrol officers, we get a combination, probably a third with the Quinn bill, and then maybe 2/3 with the education incentive flat rate.
Okay, thank you for that. And my last
Exactly.
question, you indicated 49 police officers, and you're looking to for additional staff. What are you looking for? 1, 2?
So when we give this offer of employment, if he signs it, that'll make 50. And we have the 4 positions that we've worked with the town manager over a time frame to fill those 4 positions.
4 positions.
Yeah, if you recall, when we were looking at the budget this year and where we could trim a little bit, we knew that by the time we would get names off civil service, it probably would be 6 months into the year or almost into next year. So in an effort to look at free cash that we may have or turn back money that we may have at the end of this year, we're really limited on what's available on the list from civil service anyway to hire. So we haven't rushed, except that if we have somebody come up and we don't want to lose them, okay, we hire. But it's really, it's a time game and figuring out how quickly we can get seats in the academy. The chief always is working to try to get seats, which is another holdback for us. There are a lot of things that are out of our control. If you said to me tomorrow, we have, if tomorrow COVID ended and our revenue skyrocketed, and I said, okay, let's put a full complement of police officers in, and I said to the chief, go hire 4 cops, she couldn't do it.
So one of the difficult things in the past year has been academy seats, and then we've had the challenge of COVID and keeping the student officers healthy while they're in the academy. We've had 4 officers go through the academy during the COVID in the last year, and so at times they all had to suspend their academy because of a COVID outbreak. So it extends the time frame of the academy. They've had to adjust graduations. So it's just challenging getting seats in the academy, and then the time frame that they're in the academy. Then they come out of the academy. We do another 12-week field training program before they're sort of signed off on by a field training lieutenant, and then they go out and they're towards the workforce.
Okay. Well, thank you for that answer, and again, thank you for all your hard work as far as the chief and the town is concerned. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. I'm all set, Ed. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go on, go ahead.
Previously asked about that administrative fee there, and I think it's covered under Chapter 44, Section 53C of Mass General Laws, which down the bottom it says a city, town, or district may establish a fee not to exceed 10% of the cost of services authorized under this section, which shall, except in the case of a city, town, district, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, I just figured I'd mention that. It is listed in Mass General Laws, 44, Section 53C. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a couple questions, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Sure, Ben, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chief. Again, I just had a quick question. On the budget, and I'm sorry if I missed this in your earlier presentation. The in-service training and education line, it's empty right now. Is that moved, or maybe I don't? I'm looking at the Board of Selectmen budget.
I don't know. Page 19.
Correct.
You're right. It's there, but
Yeah,
there's
that
nothing
was-
there.
And I guess my question relates to
When we,
the police accountability bill that passed and was signed by the governor in December. I think it made a lot of enhancements to certification and training processes, and I'm not sure if they, true to form, if they provide additional funding to fulfill those things. I know school resource officers need to be certified and trained now, so I'm just wondering if you actually need additional money.
If you go to the next page of the
Yep.
budget, the second page under police, there's an in-service training tuition line item.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of 50,200, and I believe because that in-service training on the first page has been zeroed, the actual in 20 was $100. So it looks to me like back in 19 or 20, something got changed on that, and it combined into that in-service training and tuition.
Take it
Okay,
out.
so that covers it. But I assume if you only spent $100 or in 2000, you said 19, do you think is $50,000? Like, have you sort of been able to reflect on that piece of legislation and determine whether or not you're going to need a significant investment in training costs and dollars to fulfill the law?
So what I would say is that we've done a great deal of de-escalation training for about 7 or 8 years now in our department, so it's continued and will continue. There will be additional costs, and some of that, as I've presented in years past, we are required to go to 40 hours of in-service training that is set by the Mass Municipal Police Training Council. We do that, and then in addition to that, we do in-house in-service training, which includes our firearms, taser training, and it's about another 32 hours that we add on. So we've been able to supplement that between the education and training classes that we take with MPTC, and then additional classes that we take from outside instructors. And some of that does come out of the in-service training tuition, and then some of it comes out of our overtime budget as well.
Okay, great. I remember
But
working.
I do foresee there being additional, I mean, we're already looking at having to change some of our policies. We're in that process right now of drafting new policies. We're hoping to get that in our in-service this spring before it has to be implemented for July 1st. So
The reality is there are some significant unfunded mandates.
Okay.
And there are going to be costs that come as a result of the legislation.
I remember when I worked in the legislature, we tried to get additional funding for school resource officer training, and I recall I think the head of the Chiefs of Police Association, basically, he laid out the costs for us. The costs for the training were cheap, but the cost for overtime to fill those slots was like 10 times the cost of the training. It was extraordinary. So I can only imagine. My next question is, I saw back in like the fall or December, I think that Stoughton was named in a lawsuit. I'm sure related to goal or something like that. Is there some sort of financial exposure with that, or is it more an injunction of some kind? I don't know.
So right now we've just been served with the paperwork, and we'll see. We'll have to see where it goes. And basically, it's around the rapid response to giving a license to an individual within our town.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I have, and keep up the good work. I attended a vigil as well as a march and protest for Black Lives Matter, and I have to say, the officers who were there providing support and service were so professional, so kind, so helpful. It was good, very good and heartwarming to see, and and to talk with them. So thank you for all your work in that sphere with the department. It's much appreciated.
It's a testament to the officers that we have in our department.
All right, anybody else?
Yes, I have a question if I could.
Okay, Joe.
Chief, I think your budget looks fine. You guys are doing a great job. I know in past conversations that you're contemplating the possibility of having on your staff some civilian positions as either a social worker or a mental health counselor. Is that something that you're thinking of doing in the, I don't see it for this coming fiscal year, but maybe in future fiscal years?
So we're looking to try and apply for a grant that will fund some of that as well. That is something that we're hoping to put in at some point.
Okay.
But we're trying to partner and work with other communities in our area, because if we can get other departments to work with us in conjunction and move the person around from each department, it's what's worked in other areas of our state.
Okay.
And I think it's important to note that our department works with our youth commission. We work with the schools. I mean, it'd be great to have that position on staff as well. But in the short term and in the immediate, taking advantage of the resources that we offer, the police department's extremely good at that and networking through all town departments for those types of crisis situations. It'd be great if we could get a grant to actually have something dedicated right into the police department.
All right. Thank you. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
All right, anybody else? I just got a quick question, Chief. Where are we on certification, that special certification for the police department? Does it renew every like 5 years? Are we in the cycle, or where do we stand on that?
Are you referring to accreditation?
Yes.
The next time we would go for a reaccreditation would be in the early months of 2022.
Sometime in 22? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody else is good? All right, anybody from the public want to comment on the police budget? All right, hearing none.
Mr.
What?
Chair, if I could just ask one brief question. This is Mark Zemanian, 5 Low Avenue.
Sure, Mark, go ahead.
Just a curiosity through you to the chief. How many canine dogs do we have in employment?
We have one canine officer.
1. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody else from the public? All right, guess that'll do it. Thank you, Chief, and thank you for all your professionalism.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right,
Hey. Be safe out there.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
You as
good
well.
night. All right, that takes care of the budget piece for tonight, the police budget. Those were the items for tonight. A few more items, I guess, that came out today. Everybody got the sheets that Robin sent out, all the position ones. And Mr. Rose sent out an updated 6-month analysis of actual receipts for the last 4 years. I'm gonna put this on for next week to discuss the revenue side here after we do, I believe, the fire department next week. So take a look at this. There's some big variances on some of these items on last 6 months, 20 to 21. So we might have to, we're gonna dig into those a little more and see what that might look like. They might be a little overstated for this year's budget. So everybody look at it, find the old sheets we got back in January, listing all the local receipts, all that receipt. You'll have it all. You already have it all. So, and come ready to take a look at that and see where we might do about that. And maybe if we're lucky, the state might post the 3rd quarter receipts on hotel and meals tax. And we'll see what that might look like from that perspective. All right, that's some homework for next week. I don't know if you want to talk about now. We went over that Parks position last night. There's some discrepancies on the dollars. The sheet that Robin sent out today, the math on that sheet matches the 21, but it doesn't match for 22. Are you willing to look at that tonight, Robin, or you want to wait till?
No, I've got to sit down with Tom. Tom was on vacation this week, so I need to sit down with Tom Fitzgerald and go through those with his team and make sure I've got everything lined up. I just don't want to keep having misinformation.
Okay, because I'll put that on for
Eddie.
next, yep.
Could I ask through you to Robin? Robin, the stuff that was sent out, is it the one with the yellow on it? Is that, like, there's a column that has yellow in it?
Yeah, you have one that has yellow in it, but then you have a that's the spreadsheet, but then you have a PDF file that doesn't have colors on it. That's the one Mr. Anzavino has. And that, yeah, that provides,
I didn't print that.
okay, that provides the breakdown of the positions, if you will, and the percentage of how they get spread out.
Yeah, that was the one I was concerned for, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put
the other one, Scott.
What's that?
I
Who's
didn't fill out the other one.
All right. I'll put that back on for the 4th, next Thursday, the Parks Department. We can revisit that with Mr. Fitzgerald's on for all his departments next
Yes.
week anyway, so we can go over that then. You can have a chance to take a look at that.
Thanks.
All right. So the moderator is still working on his budgets. They should be out soon, at least at 7. What's up next? 3, 4, 10, 11. All right, 3, 4 I'm gonna have coming out maybe tomorrow or Monday. 10 and 11. 11's already set up for the school. That'll be a joint meeting with the articles on one of the, I forget which committees. And then we'll go over the school budget again and go over that's on the 11th. And then the moderator is supposed to get out the what's the next 2 days? 17, 18, for the following week. That should be out soon too. And then will be a bunch of articles with some of whichever committees have been assigned to those. Now, the only other piece that belongs to us are the 3 contracts. I have to schedule some time for that, Robin. Is it best to wait till the end, or I don't know,
Yes.
you have any?
Absolutely.
Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely, please, if you could wait till the end so that I at least have a shot to try to present this to FinCom. I don't want to get into what we had last time where I had it ready and then we couldn't get a meeting together. And then I'm presenting it on Zoom meetings to whoever can show up on a Zoom meeting. So if you could put it off to the end, I'd appreciate it. I really am trying to get these last few hammered down. It would be nice to have them all settled so that I can start all over again. We did, just so you're aware, part of it was by design with the 1 years and then the 1 and 3 on some, because we had all 8 coming up the same year every time. And to have all your contracts expire with 8 labor unions, this is not enough time in a day. And negotiations are long, especially if you're trying to make heavy lift changes, like things like the grid. Hopefully now that we don't have the grid issue anymore, things will go a little quicker in the next cycles, but at least it'll be, 4 contracts 1 year, 3 or 4 the next. So that we tried to stagger those out. And we've been somewhat successful at it. So yeah, if you could push those off to the end, I would really like to get these last few done, and then I can start negotiating all over again for the ones that are coming up again.
Okay, we'll put them off towards the end, but if you settle anything and
I will let you know and ask you to put it on as soon as you can.
if you could do an MOA and send us a spreadsheet of the cost, the 3 years, whatever, the analysis, before the end, that would be good, if
Okay.
it works out that way.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Joel.
I'd like to kind of give you an update on the new fire station, if I could.
Sure.
Oh,
It's gotta be better than Jesse's update last night.
I don't know what she said last night, but I'm sure it was all correct.
I think she covered everything.
The only thing that we're worried about is that we've got a directive from somebody at Town Hall to add chicken coops for 12 Rhode Island red chickens. I don't know who's sending that, but we're working that out now.
I'm going to supply eggs to the school department for lunch, save on some food service costs.
Any event, the select board is meeting on March 2nd. There's a public hearing on March 2nd that we are presenting, including the entire package, including the cost. There's going to be a discussion about how it's going to be financed. And once if the select board is in agreement and accepts our recommendation, then we will immediately send out all the information to the finance committee, and we'll leave it up to you as to when you want to schedule a public hearing on the project.
As far as the financing options, will there be multiple options available to discuss? And is 2 or 3 weeks gonna be enough for us to look at stuff?
I think that there could be multiple options. Yes, there could be.
Okay. All right. So that'd be next week, what that, Tuesday, Wednesday, what day is that gonna be?
That's Tuesday evening, and if everything goes according to plan, you, Bob, and Vaughn will get an email from me with all the information that should go out to all the members of the Finance Committee, plus areas where they can pick up some additional information that may be too large, the files that might be too large to actually send out via email.
I have a question, Ed.
Yeah, go ahead.
What happens to our agenda if the select board does not accept what you present on Tuesday?
If the select board doesn't accept it, Dave, I'm going to have to assume that it'll be stricken from this town meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know what else they could.
I still think that's a good option.
I gotta tell you, I like Jess's update better.
I'd like to second that.
Oh, there it is.
I'm gonna have to go out and get a Patriots hat now.
There's something special underneath that hat.
All right, that's pretty much it for tonight. Does anybody have any questions on the budget so far, or where we're at, or how we're progressing? Next week, we'll get through fire and DPWs, and that will pretty much be all the budgets on the town side. And then we'll meet the following week, we go over the school budget again. And so, as of tonight, we're short about 279-ish. And then this revenue, it looks a little suspect, so it could be a little higher, depending if we're gonna make a change. So, anybody any other thoughts at this point?
Ed, do you know when you plan to talk about revenues again? Is that, are we waiting
next
for
week.
something? Okay.
Next week.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna do the fire budget next Wednesday, and then we'll talk about some revenue stuff.
When are you gonna get into the enterprise funds, Ed?
When the moderator sends me out the budgets for those articles with the committees, and then we're gonna do them,
Okay, all right.
because they all got assigned to those articles, so,
Yeah, I just wanted to, I was just checking to see if that was the delay on us having those.
yeah. Yeah, they
Even-
assigned it to municipal ops this year, and. a
Even,
whole
even
bunch
though
of
we
them.
did 2 of them already,
Yeah, well, we get to hear them again.
but.
They should be quick. 4 or 5 of those are all easy ones. It shouldn't be that bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what other questions come up. And that's about all I have for right now.
You got those 2 minutes on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I put them on there. I amend these things many times. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. All right. Anybody have any questions on the minutes of February 11th and 17th? All right, hearing none. Gilda, are you here?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Keep forgetting to call you on the roll.
It's fine.
You're not on the list. I don't have you on the master list. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, so was anybody not here for those days that we need to put that on there? Okay, so everybody's happy with what we have then? There's no changes needed? So then I look for a motion to approve the minutes of February 11th and 17th of 2021.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Ed votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Chet?
Yeah.
Dave?
Yes.
Diane? Scott?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
John Anzavino?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
The John Rock?
You are correct, sir. Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Elliot?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Enoch? You still here?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. That takes care of that.
What was the count, Eddie?
Everybody's here about 1, so 14. All right, since no one wants to talk about the budget stuff anymore, then
I'll move that we continue the public hearing to Wednesday, March 3rd at 7:15 as a virtual meeting on Zoom.
Second,
Okay, Ed votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Chet? Chet, still here?
He's on mute.
No.
No? Is that a facetious no, or?
No, I'm just kind of tired of doing Wednesday and Thursday nights, and we're done at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. We should continue this meetings to like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Wow. Okay, Dave?
Yes.
Diane? No, she's not here. Scott?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Johnny Anzavino?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
D. John Rock?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Elliot?
Yes.
Vaughn?
yes.
Enoch?
Yes.
Okay, 13-1. All right, that
Hi
takes
there.
care of that.
Yeah, Ed, I just want to echo something about Chet's frustration is that I think because it's an experimental year with the subcommittees being collapsed into regular finance committee meetings, that it seems like we're not really getting as much work done to vet the departments. I think we experimented with thinking, well, a department as large as the police department, we must have a lot to cover because we're putting subcommittee work into finance committee work. And then, and having it just be a 2-hour situation, it seems like we might be coming up short in terms of the work we would typically do in a normal year where we don't have COVID and we're not doing virtual meetings. So I would just like to echo the same frustration. I'd love to see, regular order of business where we could get back together in a room and have subcommittee work and face-to-face meetings and really get the job done, in a proper way. But I have the same frustration he does. I just want to say that.
Well,
Okay,
if
thanks.
there are any questions that you feel haven't been vetted on any of these budgets,
No,
or
Dr. Grimm, that's not exactly the point. The point is that in this environment, it's very difficult to really get it really. You can't substitute regular order of business. We have subcommittee work that's done off camera, where reports are brought forward to the larger committee in the Great Hall, where we really get to look face to face at each other and kind of bounce back, around, where Ed would go around the room and say, starting with, Deborah Roberts and all the way around the room, through to Joel and really doing, a proper format that kind of gets it done in a nice, full way. And I think that's where Chet's frustrated. I think that's where Chet's coming from. And if that is, that's kind of where my frustration is as well. I just wanted to.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, can I make a statement?
Sure.
I just, David's correct. However, the budgets have been fairly straightforward, and we're going through them quicker. So, I think the problem is we underscheduled these meetings.
Actually, there were articles that were supposed to be heard last night and tonight that got knocked off with the amended meeting because we were going to be doing them jointly. So there was much more business to be handled these 2 nights that ended up being removed because of the requirement for the joint hearings. So
okay, that makes sense.
The sad part is we hear crying when we're running over. Now I hear whining that there's not enough. But if we put stuff on the budget in the list and we couldn't get to it, we get made to look like idiots. I don't mind having a little bit of a break. I've been plowing snow for 3 weeks solid.
No, Scott.
Hey, Robin, the governor said today that on March 22nd, you can start having indoor gatherings of 100 people. You can open up town hall, or can we start meeting at the Great Hall or anything like that?
I'm gonna have to talk to the Board of Health, see how much space requirement that is for gatherings of 100 or more and how big of an area. I think likely what's gonna happen, because there are people who are still gonna be uncomfortable coming into an indoor environment like that, I would probably say that most things should be hybrid at a minimum, to not exclude people who may feel vulnerable. I mean, if somebody hasn't, if you're 45 and you've got a comorbidity, you may not necessarily be getting your vaccine right now, and and you may not feel comfortable. So I'm very concerned about excluding people by moving indoors. At least this way, everybody can participate. If you go inside, you're risking alienating people in vulnerable populations. So at minimum, I think we could do hybrid.
I think there's also light at the end of the tunnel. On the news, they were showing courthouses throughout Massachusetts were starting to open.
Yep.
So there is a loosening up of requirements to do, municipal and state work. So.
And
a
again,
lot of the buildings that they're opening up have been retrofitted with proper ventilation systems too. So the town hall by no means serves any purpose as a proper ventilating system. And you're gonna have a hard time putting people in there that are breathing air from another place. They've had people get so sick in gyms because they said that they could exercise with their masks off, and the huffing and the puffing, people on the other side got COVID. I will not partake. I can't. I'm that brittle. I could not go inside with a group. I'm sorry.
And my concern is, even if we can, should we, becomes the question. And again, that's a bigger question for a whole group of people. The board's going to make its own decision. FinCom's going to make its own decision, and individuals certainly are going to use their best judgment.
And, I'm just curious. All right.
Yeah.
Chairman, can I address something on this too, because it was brought up? As far as last night's agenda and tonight's agenda, I think that maybe, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but last night's agenda, we had originally Article 6, 19, and 20 on there, which is Cedar Hill Enterprise Fund, capital equipment for Cedar Hill, and then town buildings upgrade, which is the Cedar Hill, the dog pound area there. And then for tonight, we originally had Articles 19, 25, 35, and 36. So there were 7 articles that were removed from these pair of nights, and I think that's part of the reason that if people think maybe we're not getting enough done, it was kind of an amended agenda that you couldn't really add anything in to fill that spot. So I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know if everyone's aware of that, but that's part of the reason why it's like this. And that would have
lengthened the nights.
That was done so that we could facilitate joint meetings with the other standing committees later on, so that we didn't need to hear these things again. So if we had heard them last night and tonight, we would have got to hear them again in another week or two. So I just wanted to bring that up. If anyone wants to double check those agendas, you can see that we pulled 7 articles off these pair of nights. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thanks, Vaughn. Mr. Chair, I would also just kind of like to invite Chet to maybe speak for himself on what he's frustrated about. I think we're all running around here guessing at what Chet is upset about. And I think it would be helpful to hear if this is the issue that's the problem.
I don't know, Chet, you would like to comment? Is he still here?
He's still there. He's on mute right now. But...
Oh. Hello, Chet. Would you like to say anything? No, guess not.
Okay, then.
All right, then I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, Ed says yes. Bob?
Yes.
Chet?
Chet's still muted.
All right, come back to Dave.
Yes.
Diana, she's not here. Scott?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
John Anzavino?
Yes.
Joel Volk?
Yes.
D. John Rock?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Elliot?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Enoch?
Yes.
Chet, you back? Hello, Chet.
I think he hung up.
Okay. All right. What's that? 13, 2. So what's that? 13, I guess. Okay, we're adjourned till Wednesday at
See you next
7:50
week.
p.m. See you next week.
Bye, John.
Have a good week. Have a good